All right, guys, welcome back. I'll make this super quick. I needed to make a couple corrections to the video I posted yesterday in regards to my thoughts on the newly announced Profoto B10 Plus and the reasons why I wouldn't buy it. Although all my core reasons are absolutely accurate in that video by far, I did misspeak on a couple occasions, and one of it was just a simple oversight on my part. It was an honest mistake, and I want to prove that to you now real quick. So in the original video, there was a section where I had said that the new Profoto B10 Plus was not twice as powerful as the outgoing B10, and I cut the video right when I said that and spliced in a second clip where I was talking. The issue was yesterday I didn't use a teleprompter. I was just talking away, just as I am doing now. And on the edit, I ended up getting a better take of what I was saying, and I spliced it in, and I did it in the wrong section. And if you pay close attention to the original clip in that video, you'll see right where I spliced it, and that was the mistake I made. Here is that clip now, just to kind of prove my point. Just quickly address the fact that this light is not twice as more powerful. So let me try to kind of just quickly go over that, okay? So basically, that whole section should have been removed, and then I should have said what I'm going to say now to help clarify all this stuff. So the issue is that I was getting a lot of messages on Instagram from people that were assuming that the new light is twice as more powerful as the B10 as it relates to the current power scale in the light. Now, obviously, those of you that know and perhaps don't have one and don't know is that on these lights, there's a 1 to 10 power scale. Each time you go up from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so forth, you're doubling the amount of light output, in theory, of the light, and then that you're able to, that correlates obviously to the camera for each stop. So each whole number increase is one stop more power, which is doubling the light, okay? That, I've known that for years. That wasn't the point I was making. The issue is that I was getting a lot of questions and comments in my Instagram DM from more than one person that were confused, and they were thinking that because it's twice as much that they would get another 10 stops of range out of that light. They were thinking that, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the B10 plus another another set of 10 stops more power, making it twice as powerful in that sense. That's what was cut from the original video, which was the mistake. I'm sorry for that confusion. That's what I was referring to. This also goes into that same individual was also asking and thinking that because it's twice as more powerful, they thought that the battery efficiency would also be just as good. So they were thinking that because it's twice as more powerful, that if they put the new Profoto B10 Plus at 50% power, which is, to be clear, is power value 5.0 on the back of the light, that at that value, that they would be getting the full power of the B10 and be able to get the 400 flashes on the new Profoto B10 Plus as the old B10, because it would be at 50% power, and that is also not the case at all. Okay, the power bands don't match up like that whatsoever, and that's where I was saying in my original video, which is 100% correct, that the only difference here is a one-stop difference. 3 clicks on your camera, assuming it's set up in 1/3 stop increments, difference in the total output of these lights. So again, to clarify, if you have a Profoto B10 Plus and you put that at value 9.0 out of 10 on the power scale, that should, on paper, line up with what the B10 would be at full power at level 10, period. And that difference in the real world is 3 camera clicks, 1 stop, doubling the light output. However you want to think about it, it all kind of means the same thing. And that is what I meant. And I'm so sorry again for any confusion around that topic, okay? The other misconception that I wanted to quickly touch on was the fact that people need to understand that watt seconds labels on the lights does not correlate output of the light. And a lot of people don't get that. Let me just quickly talk about that. So if a light is rated at X amount of watt seconds for whatever it is, all that's saying is that that particular light is capable of producing that much energy. Watt seconds is not a measurement of power output. That's what you're going to use a light meter for to get how many stops it is. That's how you measure the output of the light. It is not through the watt seconds that are printed on these labels. Mark Wallace has an amazing video that shows this in real world use in his studio. I think he has the best explanation of this possible. I'm going to put a link below in this video to his explanation on watt seconds. Highly recommend you watch this video. You'll learn so much about just how this works and how it can be different from one light to the next. With that said, though, because the Profoto B10 Plus and the B10 share the exact same front element, the reflectors are identical, the build is about the same exactly, there should be a one-stop difference between these two lights, which technically speaking is twice as much power output as the other one. Oh, and speaking of the power difference between these two lights, I had one subscriber who commented down below, which was very interesting, and he said that he saw a comparison between the Profoto B10 and the B10 Plus, and he said that the comparison between the two showed a 0.8 stop difference between the two lights, which is not even a full stop of power, which further reinforces my point that it's a negligible difference between these two lights. So if you're looking at it in terms of the raw power output, all things being equal in the front element of both those lights, look, I don't think it's enough to justify it at all, especially when you consider all the other factors that I was talking about as to why I wouldn't buy this light. The second thing that I said that was technically incorrect was the price difference, at least as of today as it's announced. Now, I said it was a $1,000 price difference, and I was quickly corrected by people that would send me links from various places, and they fluctuate like within $100 or $2. So what I'll say here to be safe is that what I've seen is that the price difference for the two light kit is anywhere from $700 to $800 difference depending upon where you're sourcing it from. For B&H, the price difference was about $720, with the B10 Duo kit coming in around $3,300 or $3,400, and then the other kit, the B10 Plus, was like $4,000 or $4,100 or whatever it was. So that's the difference now. Now the per unit cost was about a $400 difference per unit, ranging from $1,695 for the B10 to the $2,100 mark of the Profoto B10 Plus. That's what I saw on one retailer. Some places, and there's people that aren't in the United States that are telling me that they get it even less or whatever it is. Look, it doesn't matter if it's $1,000, if it's $700, if it's $800. My point remains, it's significantly more expensive to get these lights. And that was, by the way, the cost factor for me was the least of my reasons why I wouldn't move to this light, which I'll recap again in just a second. But just to be totally clear, I was incorrect when I said it was $1,000. That was a very solid price, and that price may change too. And I personally hope and feel and think that the B10s might go down a little bit in price, so that there may be an actual $1,000 price difference between the two lights as time moves on. But I don't know that for sure. That's just my own personal thoughts. And I hope that that is the case. We'll see. The third thing that I said, as a matter of fact, in the video, which has been challenged, and I will agree that I'm probably incorrect for saying it as a fact, although I think I'm right, is that people are saying that the new Profoto B10 Plus is not replacing the Profoto B1X. This is true. Initially, they're not just going to axe the Profoto B1X from the product lineup and get rid of it altogether. Number one, Profoto has a crap load of stock and inventory of that light all throughout. The last thing I want to do is discontinue it out of the gate and create a frenzy and have to slash the prices everywhere to liquidate that light. So they are not good. It wouldn't make sense for them to discontinue it anyway out of the gate. No more than Canon. Canon said the same thing when they released the new RF line of cameras with the EOS R and their new lenses. They said, we're going to keep manufacturing the EF lenses right along, and this camera's to supplement what's already there. Look, guys, we already know the reality here, okay? The future is going to be that. It just is. You know, you mean to tell me that the average consumer is going to look at two 500 watt second lights from the same manufacturer, and one of them is significantly smaller and lighter and more portable and has the modern interface on the back which matches the B10. Look, most people are going to choose that light. Some people are going to choose the B1X because they like, you know, that it's more robust, they like that it's bigger, it has that nice handle on it. Look, I get it. There are reasons to have that light around, and there are very few reasons, in my opinion, that someone would actually today buy that light over the newly announced B10 Plus. But mark my words here, if we're just being honest and realistic and think about this in common sense terms, if the sales continue to fall on the B1X, which is my prediction, people are going to jump on the newest, latest, greatest tech. And that's just the way it is. And sooner or later, you're going to see that light discontinued, period. That is my prediction. Whether that happens in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, It will happen, I promise you. Okay. All right, guys. So just to kind of run down super fast, the reasons why I'm not going to be buying this light over the B10s. Number one, I already own the B10, so upgrading to this light makes almost 0 sense whatsoever. But specifically speaking, these are bigger lights. I know they're 2.6 inches or 3 inches bigger, or whatever it is. It's big enough where it's not going to fit in my airline carry-on backpacks, and that's a big problem. The fact now that they're just that much bigger, it now won't fit in these same bags, which are specifically sized where I can carry my mirrorless camera, my 3 core lenses, and a couple flashes and extra accessories. And now I have to sacrifice something else to afford the space for these slightly bigger lights. And to me, that's a deal breaker. Number two, it doesn't use a proprietary battery, which you might think is a good thing because now you can use the batteries that already exist for the B10s. The problem is, though, is that I want there to be a proprietary battery for this new light so that it gets at least 400 full power flashes like the B10 did, and they didn't. They got lazy, they used the same battery, and now they've cut it in half because they're doubling the power of the output, so now it only gets 200 flashes, and for me, for some of my shoots it would be okay, but for a lot of them it would not be okay, without having to now carry extra batteries, which increases the cost. It's also more space I have to account for in the bags, and that's not something that I like whatsoever. So I wish that they had done something there where the battery was just a little bit thicker and we got more power out of it. And on that same note, that also means I'm going to be tempted, if I own those, to run the power a little bit lower down into like the 9.0 range so that I do get more mileage out of it like I would the B10. And at that point, it just makes more sense to have the B10 to begin with. The amount of times where I actually need that extra 0.8 stop of power, which is like leaning the light in 24 more inches, really is not a big deal. And those happen so far and few between in the real world for me that it just makes 0 sense to base the whole lighting system on that one scenario. Coupled with the fact that it's slightly bigger, going to be a little bit more bulkier. It's 1 pound heavier, and on the nano stands, which is the ideal stand to have for the B10 series of lights, that's another consideration. I've already had one topple over, got knocked over and broken, and that was a pain in the ass. Now if I have to have another B10 that's a little bit longer and a pound heavier, which it is, that's going to make it even that much more susceptible to falling over. That's not something that I want to look forward to either. That's another big con for me. Of course, the price is another factor. I don't care how much money you have. Dollars is dollars, whether it's $700 or $800 or whatever it is, $400 per unit. However you want to calculate it out, it's more money for something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for most people. So that's where I'm at with this light, and those are the very real reasons why I personally would not give up the B10s in place of these new B10 Pluses. It's just not worth it. All right, so real quick, I was asked to give some scenarios of where I would favor the B10 Pluses and kind of just go through some different types of photographers that are out there, okay? Number one, if you are a photographer that currently owns the B1X kit and you have more than one of those units and you are traveling more than 50% of the time, in other words, you're on airplanes often and you're having to pack those lights, and it's a pain, and you have multiple bags, and that represents a majority of the work that you're doing out on location, and you're accustomed to using a 500 watt second light, and you don't want to argue with me, and you just want a 500 watt second light, I do think that the Profoto B10 Pluses would be good for you for 2 reasons. Number one, as it relates to the B1X, it's going to be radically smaller and lighter and more portable. So however you're currently packing a B1X, you'll now be able to really get more in those bags accordingly. Not nearly as much as I'm doing with the B10s, but if you're already used to having to deal with the B1X, that would be a nice upgrade for you. The second thing here is that the front element reflector on the new B10 and the B10 Plus is far more efficient than the B1X. To put this in perspective, the B1X is a 500 watt second light, and the B10 is a 250 watt second light. In my personal testing with those two lights side by side, I only saw between a 1/3 and maybe a half stop difference in real power output, and that's because the front element of the new lights are more efficient. Now that being said, the new Profoto B10 Plus also has the same efficient new front element as the B10 has, so I would suspect that that would probably put out at least a half stop more power than the current B1X, despite the fact that they're both rated at 500 watt seconds. So that's another pro there. So definitely for people that either currently have the B1X and they want to retire those for something smaller and lighter, I think that would be a good grab. And at this point, you're already going to be dealing with, you know, a heavy light on a stand. So you're probably used to using sandbags and things like that. So you probably don't have a workflow in place where you're used to that super small B10 already. So for that, yeah, I think that would probably make the most sense for you. Now, if you're like me and you already have the B10s, you've just purchased those, and they're cutting the job fine for you now, there is no reason to upgrade. Sit tight. This is not something where it would make any sense. You're going to be doing a downgrade than anything else, because now you're going to have a bigger, bulkier, heavier light, and it's going to be harder to pack that into the bag. Yes, it's smaller than the B1X, but it's going to be significantly more tricky in the real world to now travel with two of those with batteries and so on as you would the B10. So if you have a 2 B10 light kit, trust me, stick with that. Pack accordingly. I have an awesome video, by the way, I'll put a link up here, that shows how I pack my B10s with my photo backpack for travel. And you'll see in that video, there's no way that the B10 Plus would fit in there the way that I had that set up. So if you already have those, sit tight. If you are a new photographer and you don't have any lighting equipment whatsoever, and you're just turned on to Profoto because you've been told it's the best and you see a lot of pros out there use it and regard it as the best, most reliable system, and you're doing this as a hobby, you're an advanced amateur, you love photography, you have a 9-to-5 job that pays all your bills, and you just want to have the latest, greatest tech, by all means, get this gear. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fine. You're not going to be in the real world situations like I am on a constant basis with clients that are paying and we're traveling and all the dynamics that I'm faced with. So for you, it's not going to be like some of the bullet points that I'm making about not buying it probably won't apply to you, right? You're probably going to be using these more sporadically. They're going to be in more controlled situations where you can plan accordingly and so on and so forth. You're not so run and gun like I am, where the size and the weight of these become a much bigger factor. So in that regard, by all means. The caveat to that is that if you're a new photographer, maybe with a 9-to-5 that you hate, and you're trying to transition out of a job and you want to do photography full time, which is something that I talk a lot about behind the scenes with a lot of people one-on-one, and you're looking for a new lighting system and you want to get something nice, I would not recommend anything at the moment in the Profoto lineup if the goal is to generate dollars from your photography and you're going to support yourself on that income. Look, you got other income, you got 100 grand in the bank, ignore what I said. If you're trying to make ends meet and you're going month to month with income and you expect this to happen from photography, then absolutely, positively stay away from Profoto. It's going to be way too expensive. It makes no financial sense for you to get these lights. Absolutely go with the Godox system. That would be my next recommendation. The Godox lights are perfectly fine. They work fine. They work more than good enough. Some people would argue they're better than Profoto in certain categories. I have no comment on that. The point is that that's going to be a much more cost-effective way for you to get a professional lighting system that's going to make a lot more sense in terms of business and dollars. Please follow my advice. Don't overextend yourself. That's the quickest way to bankruptcy. That's the quickest way for having to sacrifice other things in life that are far more important than what kind of title is on your lighting equipment that no one will care about except for you, okay? So please keep that in mind. Now, if you're a wedding photographer like myself and you do most of your weddings locally with a handful of travel and things like that, I would recommend the B10s. I would not recommend the B10 Plus, simply because the less gear we have to contend with on a busy wedding day, the better. There's absolutely no scenario I have been in where the B10s could not provide enough power. Again, the videos I've done show that and prove that. 5 days workshop out in the desert of Las Vegas, here in Miami sun, we overpower all the time. There's no problem with the B10s. They have plenty of power for most practical applications. So for that photographer that's running and gunning weddings and doing on-location sessions and things like that, the B10s are smaller, they're lighter, you're going to get more full power pops out of them. I just love them to death. I really do think that that's the best bang for the buck, and they're a little bit cheaper too, which is nice. So I would continue to recommend that light for a majority of everybody. If you're a commercial photographer and you are in these very intricate, specific, client dictated setups where you're like, the light's got to be here and the fall off of the light has to be here. We can't pull the light back. We can't get it in closer because now we need to use this modifier and we want the light to be in a specific area and we need to overpower the sun at the same time and we want to use a grid on the light and we want to use that second baffle because that's what we need to get for this particular look. And you're really, really shaping the light as it's meant to be done and you know what you're doing. Then you yourself will answer your own question. You don't need me to tell you, then fine. An extra stop of power is invaluable in those situations. I'm not going to say it's not. I come from a background of using 1100 watt second lights out on location. So trust me, I get it and I know. I'm just saying that for most people, and that includes myself, I just don't need it anymore. You know, in the beginning, I wanted the latest and greatest, and now I've learned to do a lot more with less, and I'm very liberated because of that, and I want to kind of communicate that. But definitely, if you're a commercial guy and you're in tight restrictions there, for sure, that may make the most sense for you. All right, guys, so hopefully all this now makes better sense and I've able to provide even more information here for a lot of you to kind of paint the picture and hopefully help make your buying decisions. I personally couldn't care any less what you buy. There are no affiliate links here for you to buy anything from me. This video is not sponsored. It is not monetized. I'm just another guy trying to share my thoughts based on my own experience, and I'm sorry again that I fumbled over my words in the original video, and I'll definitely do a better job next time. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.